What has been extremely interesting, India didn't just expose Imran Khan and a young first secretary at India's permanent mission in New York, Sneha Dubey. She didn't just expose Imran Khan's lies and rants, but went a step ahead. India has said we want Pakistan-occupied Kashmir back. Let's listen in.
The entire union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh were, are, and will always be an integral and inalienable part of India. This includes the areas that are under the illegal occupation of Pakistan. We call upon Pakistan to immediately vacate all areas under its illegal occupation.
Now, there is a parliament resolution that talks about Jammu and Kashmir, including Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. India reiterating it. We want POK back. This is where India puts the ball in Pakistan's court. I quickly want to bring in our guests. I have Ambassador Shilkant Sharma joining me on the broadcast. Dr. Sriram Cholia is joining me on the broadcast. We'll have a number of guests joining us from India, from Pakistan and from the United States. But Ambassador Sharma, India not just exposing Pakistan, but also saying we want POK back. Is this a more aggressive stance that India has adopted after that UN resolution?
Well, you know, India has maintained this all along, as our first secretary said, and that we are, and we will remain. So, but we don't, like Pakistan, don't want to make a kind of mockery of it by repeating it every now and then. But it has been said, like our parliament said way back in 1994, that with you, without you, in spite of you, Kashmir, J&K is an integral part of India. So, and then again, recently we have again had similar assertions. And whenever Pakistan raises this in the UN, we always counter it. And our counter is always mild-mannered but firm. And this time it is they've decided that we'll put it down again forcefully. So that's how our first secretary has said it, in very...
Dr. Sriram Cholia, is Pakistan desperately trying to divert attention from its internal troubles? Imran Khan keeps raking up Kashmir year after year after year. Is his intention just to shift focus from his domestic troubles? Just talk about Kashmir and people in Pakistan forget their internal troubles.
Yeah, it's like the opium to the masses who are suffering there under this de facto military dictatorship. I mean, they always have made it a matter of national identity to try and grab Kashmir. And that's and in the name of Islam. So it's a kind of religious nationalism, two-nation theory. They are still stuck in the past, what has happened 70 years ago. And they are continuing that with that mindset. I mean, look at the total spite and hatred that is reflecting what Imran Khan is talking. I mean, and by the way, the UNGA attendees are quite used to hearing this. So it falls on deaf ears mostly. I mean, we have, of course, a right to respond, and we are doing it very well. But most of the countries, it's like ho-hum, yawn. We have seen this so many times. Especially Imran Khan, who is totally a puppet of the military. His job depends on going out and talking like this or doing these video talks like this, because otherwise he himself could be overthrown. So he's a very weak leader. He's simply reflecting the hardline military position and this,
a weak leader who's reflecting a hardline military policy. Avirukh Sen also joins us from the United States of America. He's an author, a journalist. Avirukh Sen, Imran Khan didn't even come to the United States of America. Is this because his country seeking a bilateral dialogue with the United States, with US President Joe Biden, isn't materializing? Dialogue is a far cry. He's not even getting a phone call from Joe Biden, despite repeated requests.
Look, there are a number of issues here which have to be first looked at as to why this is happening with Pakistan. The first thing and the most obvious is the US withdrawal from Afghanistan. And obviously, they're looking at some sort of cooperation from the Pakistanis before they commit to, something like this, like a seat at the table, if you will. The other thing is that I was just hearing the previous speaker. Now, with the Biden administration, some things have changed. It is not like the previous administration where, you hold a large rally and everybody is happy in the US. Those days are gone. these people are a little more diligent, I would say a lot more diligent, and they have an agenda, which is Biden's great dream is this coalition of democracies, which he would like. I mean, there are papers that he's written on this. And one of the keystones of that is this idea of human rights and, the treatment, the essence of what we call a democratic regime. Kamala Harris, on the previous day, pointed this out, I think, in no uncertain terms when she met Modi. And that message wasn't lost. So India will also have to look at its internal, behavior or conduct when it deals with this administration.
Okay, but Kamala Harris also showed Prime Minister Narendra Modi around Eisenhower building, and the manner in which the publicly, the way she did, it was also a reiteration. Okay, that's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's cavalcade that is now leaving for the United Nations General Assembly. Those are images that we are showing you from the Prime Minister's hotel to the United Nations building. 11 minutes to go for the Prime Minister's address. I have Mona Alam joining me. Mona, Pakistan's Prime Minister, it was initially said that he was to travel to New York for UNGA, and then he decided against it. Was it because he, as Aviruk says, wasn't there on the high table with the US President?
Yes, I do not rule that out. That may have been the case because, Pakistan and America are not in the best of terms these days. And the absolutely not that he has given to the Western world is a big reason. Though, yes, I think there has to be acknowledgement of the fact that Pakistan was the first country of its kind and in the entire region who had helped the NATO troops escape from Afghanistan. So there should have been an acknowledgement and a recognition for that fact. But nonetheless, it's not Pakistan's loss. They have to have an engagement with the Taliban.
So you're saying it's not Pakistan's loss that Pakistan is being isolated. You're saying it's not Pakistan's loss.
I do not translate it in any kind of isolation. If the US president hasn't called Imran Khan, but on the other hand, they're on full operational terms with Pakistan. So I don't think that comes as an isolation, and I think we need to come out of this Western-oriented isolation or engagement that the world kind of emphasizes on. We need to actually come out of it. Being in terms with USA does not mean that you're engaged with the rest of the world and does not mean that you have the best of foreign policy. And being disengaged with the US does not also mean that you're isolated.
But just United States, you say New Zealand didn't come to your country, said security not conducive. England is not coming to your country saying security not conducive. Is that not some kind of isolation, Professor Cholia?
The world stage, you cannot put a gloss over this. I mean, they have just gotten another IMF bailout and they are actually living in a hand-to-mouth kind of existence, totally dependent on China. They don't really have any, and Turkey maybe at most. And even the Arab Sunni Gulf monarchies have shown their distance from them. So I think they are actually unable to live up to their, tall Islamist rhetoric. And their claims of representing, remember when they had the nuclear test, they said this is an Islamic bomb. It's for, to protect the whole Ummah. And even now, Imran Khan is talking about 200 million Muslims in India living under oppression. I mean, this is just, and by the way, Mr. Sen is saying that, Kamala Harris put us down about democracy. I mean, she said actually that both our countries have to, improve our democracies. What happened on January 7th in Capitol Hill? In Washington, I mean, they have no right to tell us. They have a major party, one of the two major parties, which refuses to accept the results of their presidential election. Is that a democracy? Do they have a right to lecture us? I don't think so. I think, it's good to be critical about India, but we must put this in perspective. Countries like Pakistan or even the US for that matter have absolutely no right to point fingers at us. And we are cooperating with the US for strategic reasons. I don't think the values-based thing really comes in because when it comes to democracy, everybody knows that this is a viable and solid democracy. We have,
Aviruk,
freedoms.
you want to quickly respond to Professor Sriram Cholia before I bring in Ambassador Sharma for more?
I do. a couple of things,
Yes,
Gaurav.
because
Just a
there
couple
was
of things.
she wasn't wagging her finger. She was saying we have to work. So America needs to work. India needs to work. Go on, Aviruk.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I mean, look, the previous speaker, I think he's entitled to his opinion, but I'll just get back to something that you said, Gaurav, about Kamala Harris showing Modi around, various landmark buildings, etc., in the US. Now, let's not confuse optics with substance. What she was saying was substantial, it's absolutely right. It is not anybody's place to lecture our country, or neither is it our place to lecture anybody else. So what I don't understand is all this, this sort of month about Pakistan being in bad shape. It is in the US's interest to also have a peaceful Pakistan. And Biden, let me tell you, his whole career since he started in the Senate in 1972 has been about compromise, has been about reaching out. That's who the man is.
And yet,
So,
Ambassador Sharma, Biden is all about reaching out, and Biden is someone who's actually seen as someone who's sympathetic towards Pakistan, and yet that phone call is not happening. As Mona Alam says, it's because of Pakistan saying absolutely not, to US bases or drone launch sites from Pakistan into Afghanistan, and that's why Pakistan is paying a price for this. But is this just America, showing its anger on that one issue, or is it much wider?
The fact remains that now that Afghanistan, Americans have withdrawn from Afghanistan, they are not under any pressure, any blackmail from Pakistan. So they are free to decide, and that explains the very candid observations made by all the US leaders, like the vice presidents spoke about Pakistan, and even Anthony Blinken, though he met his counterpart, Qureshi, but his insistence was constantly on what Pakistan will do in Afghanistan.
Okay.
And then President Biden has not has not even spoken to Imran Khan. So that shows the kind of distance which has come in. And that distance has come in because Americans for 20 years have suffered the Pakistani treachery and their deceit and duplicity. And constantly, they have poured billions of dollars in Pakistan to get them to assist in the establishment of a peaceful and evolving economy in Afghanistan. But the Pakistanis have done everything in their power to stop that. And now what they have got is...
The Americans are now openly talking about Pakistan's double game, Mona. So it's not just about one base not being given to launch drone strikes.